In a town in Suffolk, a building has taken on a new purpose. It stands in Mildenhall. It once served another function. Now it has been repurposed. And inside it, a factory has opened. This factory will make drones for soldiers in Ukraine. That is its stated purpose. Unmanned aircraft produced not in Ukraine, not on a distant industrial site, but here in a Suffolk town. The company behind it is Ukraspec Systems. The building in Mildenhall has been adapted as part of a $200 million investment, £200 million. That figure signals scale. It signals commitment. It signals long-term planning. This is not a temporary operation. It is structured. It is funded. It is deliberate. When fully operational, the factory will be capable of making up to 1,000 drones a month, 1,000 each month. That is the production capacity the company has described. A steady output, a sustained rhythm, month after month. The drones are intended for soldiers in Ukraine. That is the purpose clearly stated. They are unmanned aircraft, technology designed for military use, produced here, sent there. Mildenhall is now connected in a tangible way to the conflict in Ukraine through manufacturing, through logistics, through supply, through infrastructure. Ukraspec Systems has made a decision to repurpose this building, to transform its function, to align it with this objective. That transformation required investment, it required planning, it required coordination, it required funding on a significant scale, £200 million. The managing director of Ukraspec Systems in the UK is Rory Chamberlain. He spoke to the BBC. He explained the reasoning behind the factory's purpose. He said that supplying soldiers with modern weaponry was of the highest importance. Highest importance. Those words are direct. They are clear. They are not softened. They indicate priority. They indicate urgency. He added that Ukraine was as vulnerable as ever to attack. Vulnerable. That word carries weight. It frames the situation. It describes exposure. It describes risk. It describes ongoing threat. The factory's opening is not described as symbolic. It is functional. It exists to produce equipment. Equipment intended to be used. Equipment intended to respond to vulnerability. Equipment intended to address what is described as continuing exposure to attack. Inside this building in Mildenhall, production lines are being established. Processes are being put in place. Machinery is being installed. Systems are being calibrated, all with one outcome in mind: drones, up to 1,000 a month. That figure, again, signals volume. It suggests sustained output. It implies workforce. It implies logistics. It implies coordination beyond the factory walls. Because production is only one part. Distribution follows, delivery follows, deployment follows. The town of Mildenhall now becomes part of a supply chain, part of a network, part of a broader response to conflict. This factory's opening marks a shift in the building's identity. It is no longer what it was. It now serves a different function, one tied directly to events beyond Suffolk, one tied to a war that continues. Rory Chamberlain's comments frame the urgency. Supplying soldiers with modern weaponry is of the highest importance. That is how he describes it. He does not say important. He says highest importance. That phrasing establishes priority. It establishes hierarchy. It places this effort at the top of a list. He links that urgency to vulnerability. He says Ukraine is as vulnerable as ever to attack, not less vulnerable, not increasingly secure, as vulnerable as ever. That phrase suggests continuity of risk. It suggests ongoing exposure. It suggests a need for continued support. The drones produced here are positioned as part of that support, part of that response, part of that effort. The $200 million investment underpins it. Financial commitment often reflects strategic direction. Here, it reflects expansion. It reflects capacity building. It reflects infrastructure creation. The repurposing of the building is a physical manifestation of that. Walls remain, structure remains, purpose changes from one use to another, from local function to international relevance. Mildenhall's geography does not change. Its role does. Through this factory, through these drones, through this investment, the company name, Ukraspec Systems, carries its own meaning. It signals specialization. It signals technical focus. It signals alignment with Ukraine, now operating within the UK. Producing in Suffolk, connected across borders. This development is not framed as experimental. It is presented as operational. When fully operational, it will be capable of producing up to 1,000 drones each month. That is a measurable output, a quantifiable capacity. It offers clarity, it sets expectations, it defines potential scale. The factory has opened, that is the central fact. The production goal has been stated, the investment figure has been disclosed, the managing director has articulated urgency, the vulnerability of Ukraine has been emphasized. All of it comes together in this moment. A building repurposed, a factory launched, a supply chain initiated, a town connected to conflict through manufacturing. One quiet sentence seems to summarize the shift. This is where they're made. It is simple. It is factual. It acknowledges place. It acknowledges purpose. It acknowledges connection. The opening of this factory is not abstract. It is concrete. It is located. It is operational. And it is tied directly to soldiers in Ukraine. That is the setup. That is the context. A building in Mildenhall, a $200 million investment, up to 1,000 drones a month. A managing director describing highest importance, a country described as vulnerable, all converging here. And that is where this begins. The opening of the factory in Mildenhall is not only about a building, it is about capacity. It is about scale. It is about what can be produced and how often. When fully operational, the company says it will be capable of making up to 1,000 drones a month, 1,000 unmanned aircraft every month. That figure establishes rhythm. It establishes repetition. It establishes sustained output rather than a one-time effort. Up to 1,000 drones a month implies planning beyond a single shipment. It implies ongoing manufacturing. It implies continuity. It suggests that this facility is designed to function over time, not briefly. Ukreспec Systems has repurposed the building in Mildenhall specifically to produce these unmanned aircraft. Repurposed. That word matters. It signals transformation. It signals adaptation. It signals that something existing has been reshaped to meet a new objective. The objective is clear: drones for soldiers in Ukraine. There is no ambiguity about the intended destination, no suggestion of a broader civilian market. The stated purpose is direct: to supply soldiers. The investment behind this effort is significant. 200 million pounds. That number carries weight. It reflects scale. It reflects commitment. It reflects allocation of resources at a high level. Investments of that size are not incidental. They are structured. They are planned. They are deliberate. A building in a Suffolk town becomes the site of this investment. Mildenhall becomes part of an international production network, its name now linked with manufacturing for Ukraine. The facility, once serving a different purpose, now exists to produce unmanned aircraft. These drones are described as modern weaponry. That description comes directly from Rory Chamberlain, Ukreспec Systems managing director in the UK. He told the BBC that supplying soldiers with modern weaponry was of the highest importance. Highest importance. Those words define priority. They rank this effort above others. They signal urgency and necessity. He connected that priority to vulnerability. He said Ukraine was as vulnerable as ever to attack. That phrasing does not suggest improvement. It does not suggest reduction of threat. It suggests continuity of exposure. It suggests that risk remains. It suggests that the need for equipment remains. The factory's production is positioned as part of addressing that vulnerability, not eliminating it, not resolving it entirely, but responding to it through supply, through technology, through manufacturing. The number 1,000 a month stands out. It is a target capacity. It sets expectation. It provides a measurable benchmark. It communicates that this is not a symbolic gesture. It is an industrial operation. It is structured around output, around repetition, around volume. Each drone represents technology assembled in this building, manufactured in Mildenhall, prepared for use by soldiers in Ukraine. The link between Suffolk and Ukraine becomes practical, material, operational. Ukreспec Systems' decision to establish this factory in the UK signals geographic expansion. The company is associated with Ukraine. Now it operates in Suffolk. That movement reflects coordination across borders. It reflects collaboration across locations. It reflects shared infrastructure. Rory Chamberlain's remarks to the BBC frame the factory's purpose as essential. He does not describe it as optional. He does not describe it as secondary. He describes supplying soldiers with modern weaponry as of the highest importance. That language underscores urgency. It underscores necessity. It underscores priority. His use of the word vulnerable reinforces that urgency. vulnerable as ever. That phrase suggests that the conditions prompting this factory's creation remain present. It implies that exposure to attack continues. It implies that defensive or operational capability remains critical. The factory's output, then, is presented as part of that critical capability, part of that response, part of that ongoing effort. Inside the facility, production will follow processes: assembly lines, testing, quality control, packaging. Each stage contributing to the final product. Unmanned aircraft prepared for deployment. The building's walls now enclose a new function. They contain machinery and personnel focused on one objective: producing drones, up to 1,000 each month. The scale of the investment suggests more than minimal staffing. It suggests equipment. It suggests training. It suggests infrastructure. It suggests commitment beyond the immediate. 200 million is not a casual figure. It indicates significant allocation of capital. It signals confidence in sustained operation. It signals long-term intent. The factory's opening marks a formal beginning. Operations now underway. Production capacity defined, leadership articulating purpose, connection to Ukraine explicit, the supply of modern weaponry described as essential, a country described as vulnerable. All of it converges here, in this building, in this town, in this moment. One quiet sentence captures the clarity of intent. This is about supply. Simple, direct, fact-based. This factory exists to supply, to provide, to produce, to send. The term modern weaponry places the drones within a specific category. They are not described as experimental devices. They are not described as prototypes. They are described as modern weaponry, equipment aligned with current military needs, aligned with contemporary conflict, aligned with present vulnerability. The vulnerability described by Chamberlain is not presented as diminishing. He says Ukraine is as vulnerable as ever to attack. That phrase emphasizes continuity. It suggests that the risk environment remains unchanged in severity. It reinforces the rationale for ongoing production. The factory's capability of producing up to 1,000 drones a month becomes part of that rationale, a tangible response to a stated vulnerability, a measurable contribution to a defined need. The repurposed building in Mildenhall now plays a role in this equation, from Suffolk to Ukraine, from factory floor to battlefield use, from investment to implementation. That chain is now established, not theoretical, operational. The managing director's comments frame this as a matter of priority, of highest importance. Those words are deliberate. They place this production within a hierarchy of needs. They elevate it. They position it at the top. The factory is not described as symbolic support. It is described as practical support through equipment, through output, through sustained manufacturing. The 200 mailers investment underlines seriousness. It indicates structured expansion. It signals long-term engagement. It connects financial commitment to operational capacity. The opening of the factory is therefore not just a local event. It is part of a broader supply structure, part of a coordinated response, part of a network linking places and purposes. Mildenhall becomes one node in that network, producing drones up to 1,000 per month for soldiers in Ukraine, at a time when Ukraine is described as vulnerable as ever to attack. That is the continuation. Production, purpose, priority, defined, stated, operational, and unfolding inside a repurposed building in Suffolk. As operations begin in the repurposed building in Mildenhall, the connection between place and purpose becomes fully defined. This is no longer a plan. It is no longer an announcement alone. The factory has opened. Production is underway, and the destination of what is produced is clearly stated: drones for soldiers in Ukraine. The scale of that production remains central. When fully operational, the facility will be capable of making up to 1,000 drones each month. That number shapes everything around it. It determines staffing, it determines logistics, it determines workflow, it determines scheduling. 1,000 units every month requires repetition, it requires structure, it requires consistency. The building that now houses this effort has been repurposed as part of a 200 million investment. 200 million pounds allocated to make this transformation possible. That investment reflects more than construction. It reflects commitment. It reflects expansion. It reflects strategic direction. Ukr Systems has established this facility in Suffolk with a defined objective to produce unmanned aircraft for use by soldiers in Ukraine. The drones are categorized as modern weaponry. That description comes directly from Rory Chamberlain, the company's managing director in the UK. In speaking to the BBC, he emphasized that supplying soldiers with modern weaponry was of the highest importance. Those words carry urgency. They do not hedge. They do not dilute. They position this effort as essential. He tied that urgency to vulnerability. Ukraine, he said, is as vulnerable as ever to attack. That phrase is direct. It suggests that the risk level remains acute. It indicates that exposure continues. It frames the factory's production as part of addressing that exposure. The link between the factory floor in Mildenhall and soldiers in Ukraine is therefore not abstract. It is specific. Manufacturing here,